But I'm excited to be in conversation with Prahlad as we dive into his memoir, Adman, Madman, Unapologetically Prahlad. That's the book. Have you ever bought it?
Are you showing the other side?
No, I'm not showing that yet.
Oh,
I mean, we have to tease them into it. Um, so this is going to be a roller coaster ride. I mean, I'm excited to be in conversation with Prahlad. I've been a big fan of his. Like many people in this audience, I see Akriti recording in the audience. But rather than read my introduction, I actually bought his book because I was going to, be in conversation, but I had to remove the jacket cover because it had this on it. And I have a 10-year-old at home, and I was reading it, and I was on flights and all, and trying to read it. So I took the cover off until I put it on now. And I realized that the back cover is a good description of him. So I'm going to just read that,
actually, it's perfect.
if you say so.
And it's written by Muhammad Khan, who's probably among the finest writers.
So I have good taste in literature. Are you saying that?
Absolutely.
So Prahlad Kakar, born 1948, chucked out of play school at 5, lost his virginity in class 11. I would have thought earlier. But anyway, got thrown out of his college hostel at 17, aspiring army general, horse breather, blue filmmaker. Okay, we won't go there. Accidental ad filmmaker, slave of Sham Benegal. We're going to go there. Resigned before he was fired. Started his own production house. Then a dhaba, a restaurant, a beach resort, a scuba diving school, a cigar brand, an NGO, wine taster, tea connoisseur, hat collector, self-proclaimed philosopher, aspiring sperm donor. But Prahlad Kakar loves cooking, women, horses, listening to his own voice. I believe that. Not necessarily in that order. He has a beautiful wife, Mitali, that I agree with, and 3 adorable sons, as he says, but his wonderful son Arnav is here. Where are you?
There's no.
All right. So we're going to go into straight. Prahlad, I'm going to start with this opening question. It's going to be the most boring question in this conversation, I guarantee you, because it's only going to be a roller coaster ride after that. So, not to be cheesy, no pun intended.
Okay.
What was the genesis of this book? Why did you write it, and why do you write it now? And why should this fine Bangalore audiences go buy the book and make HarperCollins make some money?
Because my absolutely beautiful wife, if you read the opening of the book, which I've dedicated to her, it says that she got onto my back during COVID and said, "You have no work to do. You're useless. Write your memoirs." So I said, "No, it's not coming to me. I can't write in handwriting." So she said, "Dictate it into a dictaphone." So I tried that. I actually dictated it into a dictaphone. It sounded horrible. Didn't sound like me at all. It was flabby. It was all over the place. So then finally she whipped my ass so much that I had to actually sit down and write in longhand because I can't type. In our foolscap sheets, which run into hundreds now, because we were commissioned to do 80,000 words, and it was appalling to me. 80,000 words sounded like forever. And by the time I finished the book, it was 180,000 words and still coming. And the publisher said, "That's it, enough. We're not publishing anymore." So I told him, "Let's make 2 books and put them into 1 jacket cover and sell them 2 for the price of 1.
This is the selling point, are you saying? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's a fantastic book, guys. I've read it, but I strongly urge you to read it. You will actually fall off your chair laughing. But Prahlad, just starting with your early influences and, Mumbai and at that point of time, Bombay. And you started with Sham Benegal, and he's your mentor, tormentor, like you are to many. Tell us about your early days in Bombay and, what you did, how you struggled. And I'm going to quote one of your taglines, "Zor ka dhakka, dheere se laga."
Zor ka jhatka, dheere se
Jhatka.
laga.
Is that what happened in Bombay and you and inspired that
Well,
tagline?
no. See, I realized that the action was really in Bombay and not in Delhi, where I had actually managed to get a job. And I'd walked into ASP Delhi, which was run by then a gentleman called Jog Chatterjee. I don't know how many of the old timers remember Jog Chatterjee, but Jog Chatterjee was he was quite a big advertising guy at his time. And he looked at me and said, "Why do you want to join advertising? What do you know about advertising?" I said, "Nothing." So she said, then why do you want to join advertising? I said, sounds like it's a good place to be in. Everybody seems to be having so much fun. So he said, and he threw an ad at me and said, what do you think of this? And I knew that he didn't like the ad because of the way he threw it at me. And the ad was for Liberty shirts at that time. And I'm talking about 1971. And it was written by a man called Frank Seboys. Okay, who was then a copywriter in O&M, head of copy at O&M. And he had showed this chap with a checked shirt, his back. You could no, it was a red plaid shirt, like a lumberjack shirt. Okay. And it was his back. And over his shoulder, you could see the eyes of a woman. Around his neck were her hands, and in her hands was stilettos. So she was nange pair. I mean, that immediately signaled intimacy of some kind. So I looked at the ad and I said, and then I read the copy. And it said, we met at a boring party and one thing led to another and we ended up at his pad. I loved his shirt. I started with the top button. Tinker, tailor, soldier, sailor. Oops, no more buttons. Liberty shirts, anything can happen. Joe was horrified by the ad. Can you imagine the 70s? You know, a middle-aged, respectable gentleman reading this ad meant for 18-year-olds who are full of hormones. So he said, what do you think of it? So I had a Hobson's choice. I said, if I liked it, which I did, then I knew he hated it. And so what should I say? Should I say I like it, or should I agree with him and say it's what do you call not safe for public consumption? So I said, no, I love it. So he said, really? Why do you love it? So I said, because it's addressing people like me. And I loved the ad because everybody my age and anybody about 2-3 years older than me are going to love this ad. And the reason why you don't like it is because you're 50 years old and you wouldn't be seen dead in this shirt. You know? So if you liked the ad, they would be in deep trouble. And they wouldn't sell a single shirt. So he said, and he called this girl Farida Pandey, who was this statuesque receptionist of his, in 1971, 6'7" in height, 5'7" in height, wearing miniskirts with the best pair of legs I've ever seen.
Prahlad, you were always ahead of your time. You realize that,
No,
right?
but
in this day and age, that would be like everything you watch on Netflix
that was
these
Joe's
days.
receptionist, not mine.
I mean, I don't want to go to your office at the moment, but but tell me about Shyam Babu. I mean, your relationship with him and how he.
But Shyam was a part of our ASP office. He was a very senior executive in Bombay office, and he used to come to Delhi every now and then for a presentation. And he came once, and everybody said, Shyam has come, and he was quite popular even at that time, because he was making some great ad films. He made the Colinos films, and he made a whole lot of other films.
Including Parallel Cinema.
Yeah. And no, that was later. But at that time, he was making ad films. So I sidled up to Joe and said, I want to meet Mr. Benegal because I want to go to Bombay and learn from him. So he said, so he introduced me. And Mr. Benegal looked at me slightly disdainfully and said, you're from Delhi? I said, yes. So he says, I don't trust you all. So I said, why?
Good, this conversation is happening in Bangalore, not in Delhi.
No, but I've had this conversation in Delhi. Because everybody in Bombay thinks that everybody in Delhi is a jugadu.
That was in one of my other questions, but you can address it here. So tell me, in your, Bombay is the financial capital, it's the cinema capital. So from an advertising perspective, is it Bombay, is it Delhi, is it Bangalore, which you have a very, very dear association with? Which is the advertising capital of India?
It is Bombay because that's where all the infrastructure is. That's where all the talent is. It attracts the best talent from across the country. And every advertising professional worth his salt, especially at a very junior level, aspires to eventually go to Bombay and work in Bombay because that's where all the glamour is, and that's where the big campaigns really come out of. Except that the best campaigns that I worked on came out of Delhi JWT, frankly, with Anuja Chauhan.
Delhi in the house, I see.
Yes.
So, Prahlad, let's move on to the genesis of Genesis. I mean, you describe Genesis film production as a cafe, a brothel, a state-of-the-art kitchen, a training school for the future disruptors, a scuba diving school, an experiment for training ground for entrepreneurs, risk takers, breeding ground for the flight of the imagination and fantasy, and an office that functions 24/7 and more. How did a production house, a mere production house, turn into the school of life?
Well, it sort of evolved. In the beginning we did have an office, so we were on somebody's staircase. And slowly we could...
You PG'd in someone's house, right?
We PG'd in somebody's house, yes. But the office was in some staircase in the back of some horrible building. And we called it Khatmal Nivas or something like that. So anyway, we sort of did well, and then we bought our own office. And the first thing I wanted in that office was a kitchen. Because I said, for some intuitive reason, I felt that if we had a kitchen which would hold everybody together, then everybody would come on time, because the rule was that if you came by 10 o'clock in the morning, you could decide what you wanted to eat for lunch. If you came after 10 o'clock, you had to just eat whatever was given to you. So nobody imposed the 10 o'clock rule, except the fact that they had to start prepping lunch at 10 o'clock. And if you wanted to be a participant in the business of what you ate at lunch, then you better come to office on time. And it started from there. But what was most important about the kitchen in an office was, and I believe every organization should cook and eat together, because it just makes it so cohesive. And I'll tell you why. Because you lose the pecking order completely. There is no hierarchy in a kitchen. Whoever cooks is the boss. And they call the shots. And in an organization where everybody eats together, peons, guests, office staff, people from the building, whoever wanted to come, it was like open house. Anybody could come and grab a bite to eat. It was simple food, very nice, very, very home cooked. But it was democratic. Anybody could give a suggestion. Anybody who had a creative molecule in their brain could articulate it.
But who did the cleaning post? Because your bathroom story is another whole story where you made all the men go and clean the women's bathroom.
No. That was gender sensitivity. See, the bathroom cleaning story is because I believe that women are naturally detailed. And therefore don't have
Clap
to
for that, guys. A little bit.
They don't have to learn it. Men
Next
have to learn detailing. And what gets in the way of learning, if at all, if nothing has it except detailing, is ego. And so the first thing that has to be demolished is an ego. So when my boys used to screw up on a set as far as detailing was concerned, and the difference between good films and great films is detail, nothing else. It's just detail. So if they screwed up, they were given a toothbrush and told to clean the ladies' toilet. Now, they had two choices, to do it or not do it. If they didn't do it, it solved my problem very easily, because I knew that I would be wasting my time trying to teach them. So they could leave. If they did it, then I looked at them anew and said, okay, I can spend time with this guy because he is willing to learn. Okay? Now, why was the toothbrush and the ladies' toilet so important? Anybody? You see,
Akriti, come on, you read the book.
gender sensitivity starts with the toilet. Men's toilets are stand and deliver toilets. They don't care a shit who comes after them. Women's toilets are full contact toilets. And women never touch a toilet seat outside their homes because they don't trust them. They learn to hover. Okay? How many men know that? I have no idea. But you are learning. as it goes along. If you read my book, you'll learn very quickly. So therefore, to make them gender sensitive to the fact that women treat their toilets like temples and men treat the toilets like somebody else's toilet. That gap to remove was very important because the office was run entirely by women. And that's the way I kept them loyal, eager-beavered, bushy-eyed and bright-eyed. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed was to give them the cleanest toilet in Bombay. And they were so grateful to me for that they never left. Frankly.
So moving on for this school of life to, I mean, we are sitting in Bangalore and, we were talking earlier and you said you have a special love for the city and you credit your success to a lot of the work you've done in Bangalore. Do you want to elaborate on?
I don't know, Sadhika just launched her book and Sadhika used to work with her husband Bunty Peerboy who ran an agency here called MAA. And when they first called me in for the first assignment that I did, it was for TTK and it was for Prestige pressure cookers and it was for Jagu. And immediately we had to run it because Jagu claimed himself to be a great cook, and so did I. And we both thought we were better cooks than each other. But what Sadhika had written in a script was quite amazing. She had compared his GRS, which is the gasket release system, which was quite genius because it was so simple, about safety in a kitchen from pressure cookers exploding. And the housewife turns around and thanks Prestige and says, "Thank you, Prestige, for this great pressure cooker. Now I feel safe. Can you do something about my husband? Because he blows his gasket every time." So Jagu looked at this and said that no self-respecting South Indian housewife is ever going to talk about her husband like that. So I said, "I beg your pardon, you don't know what your housewife says behind your back." So he said, "Well, no, I don't agree and you will not take this line out." So I said, "Okay, let's give it a test. Let's call your wife and let's ask her and what she thinks about it." So he was a little upset about it and unhappy. And he called his wife. And she read the script and Sadhika presented it to her and said, "I love it. It's brilliant." So Jagu said, anyway, he kept his, peace. "Let me make the film." The film was released. It was unprecedented in its success because of the number of sales that went up of Prestige pressure cookers. Because they were in deep competition with Hawkins at that time. And he wrote me a letter, and he's the only client to date who has written me a letter saying, "I'm sorry, I was wrong."
Do you want to share the tagline? The tagline for this commercial.
And then we went on to the tagline which they're still living with, which is "Jo बीबी से करे प्यार, वो Prestige से कैसे करे इनकार."
So Prahlad, you also equate the city with your other passion, which is food. And, we were talking earlier, sitting in the coffee shop, about the steaks and the only place and the avocados. So have you experienced any of that here this time? Or
No,
you
no, I
plan to?
never had the time.
You're driving a hard ship out here. Maybe
Yeah,
they should
I
let you
know,
out.
yeah.
Let you loose for a while.
Cut
But
to
tell
cut.
us about your food and Bangalore. You used to take stuff back to Bombay from here. From what
I
I
had to
remember.
take steaks back from Bangalore to Bombay, from the only place, because I knew the owner. He became a great friend. He was also a friend of Sadhika's. And he used to pack them for me and to be carried on the airline. But cooking was something that actually came inadvertent to me because I thought it was necessary. Because one day at about 16, pimply face and everything, I looked into the mirror and said, "Eeps, my face is never going to be my fortune. So I better learn a craft."
That's why they chose this picture.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I said, I better learn a craft which, liberates my face to a certain extent and helps me hide it. So my mother was a brilliant cook. So I sat with her and I learned how to cook. And I can safely say that on my tombstone, if there's ever one, there will be an epitaph which says, "Men who cook get laid more often than men who papaya."
On that happy thought, I'm going to go into a section. So, guys, I normally do many of these conversations, but this is the first time I actually went and did research, like primary research. So, if you read his book, the last chapter, there's a thing called the clan. These are all Prahlad's who he's mentored and tormented simultaneously, and they're all extremely successful human beings at this point. And you will find them in every corner, probably interact with them every day. Like we had 6 of them come in the coffee shop and take selfies with him just now. But so Prahlad, I have this section called Decoding Prahlad now. Okay? And I have this thing called the dichotomy. So, you created the most iconic avatars for brands through your career, but you also created one for yourself. Brash, in your face, ladies' man, flamboyant, and the list can go on.
Irreverent.
I mean, it can go on and on. But if you talk to anyone who knows him well, who's worked with him, they will say he's the most sensitive, dependable, helpful, caring, friend, mentor for life. You can call him anytime you want, he'll help you. So why create this persona? Is this like a safety mechanism?
No, it's not a created persona. It's what people take away. Because on my set,
You confuse them.
I was an ogre. Nobody was spared. I mean, men, women, children, you name it. They all got the same treatment. If they screwed up on detail, essentially. But off the set, then there was no pressure. So then we could get personal. And we could talk to each other. We talk about our family lives, our homes, what our ambitions were, what you wanted to do. And also career guidance to a very large extent. Because, filmmaking is a very funny career. I mean, everybody is not a director. There are very successful people within films who are production managers, who are designers, who are set designers, who are just look and feel people, who are photographers, who are cinematographers, and so forth and so on. There are multiple disciplines. It's a multiple discipline activity. But in Genesis, you learnt everything about everything. And then you decided what you wanted to specialize in. But that was on your own time.
But you were accused of something. Let me just start with this. So when I started this conversation, I thought he was the Don Draper Madman of India, right? Yeah. But Don Draper was a misogynist. I mean, as good as it gets in that area. But apparently, talking to people, the best projects, Prahlad first offered to women on a common theme. Even if they didn't, he'd actually offer it again to them. So care to comment on being called a closet feminist?
No, I'm not a closet feminist. I'm a very
Are
open
you a feminist?
feminist. I'm a very open feminist. I believe
no closet for him.
I believe that women were always superior to men, and that Manu screwed them over 1500 years ago. He wrote a book called Manusmriti, which he ensconced quietly as a part of Hinduism, and handicapped women all the time. So today, even today, women have to be twice as good as men to be even accepted as equal.
But they are genetically.
No.
I'm more of that.
It's a fact. Questions. And because my office was so successful, so consistently, for so long, and I'll give the entire credit to my female management team, honestly. Because I was just the architect. The real builders of the team were the women in my team.
But even if you read your book, The Clan, I mean, I could find probably 2 or 3 men in the clan that were
But they were salt of the earth, the ones who survived.
So anyway, speaking to the clan, this is what they said. Best boss ever, who taught you life lessons, not just for advertising, for anything you did post. Sensible, solid, steady as a rock. Terrorized you initially, but able to make you feel the most special person in the room. So how do you turn out this way? See, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So what part of your upbringing, I know you went to boarding school, you're with grandparents, you were bounced around, you did boxing. So what has created this Prahlad?
It's a bit of pieces of everything. When I was asked to write this book, I was asked to write about my professional career, to be very honest. And when I tried writing for my professional career, I realized that a lot of the creative solutions and a lot of the reasons why I was what I was because of my upbringing. And my upbringing was at the various situations that I went through, which actually colored my outlook towards life. And I think that became very important. So the first 60,000 words went into my growing up.
But tell me, you defy the stereotype that men can't multitask. I'm not going to go through the list. Just read the back cover of this, and you'll know what all he does. So, how did you manage to accomplish so much simultaneously? Because from what I talk to my people, your people, I mean, this is a guy would do all this simultaneously, and he'd do it just perfectly. So,
No, I finally give it to my DNA, and I feel that despite what I look like, I have a very strong female side. There you are.
So I know guys from the what's the time check like? We have questions, right? Okay. So anyway, I'm going to go on. So my next section, I was going to call it the Renaissance man, but somebody in the audience told me it's called polymath. It's more now. Renaissance is very old. So so again,
also
talking
very
to
old.
your people, they said you could get away with anything, like anything, and you could sell anything you believed in. You're a great entertainer, loved everything, but the most innovative galis, and I was told them, but I cannot say them in public, came from you. You came up with this most innovative galis and you gave your work away to people, to your friends that needed the work, and you set up so many careers. So, I mean, how did this Prahlad come about? A giver.
I don't know. I think it's a matter of evolution. It's also a matter of the fact that if you take yourself seriously. See, advertising has one big problem today, is that we advertising professionals in the business that we are in today take ourselves too seriously. And because we take ourselves so seriously, we can't laugh at ourselves. If you can't laugh at yourself, you can't laugh at the world. If you can't laugh at the world, you can't get away with anything. Everybody takes you seriously as well. So if you give a gali, they take it to heart. If you give a compliment, they hold you to it. If you insult them on national television, like I've done to lots of politicians in my time, they actually go after you vindictively. So the only way you can get away with all the things that I've got away with, and the only way I can rationalize it, is by saying that I first laugh at myself. And this book is testimonial to that. The book is all about laughing at myself, to be very honest. It's one laughter riot from the beginning to the end.
You were lucky that social media wasn't that what it was as it now.
But it is there now.
But anyway, so I have this section which I call Prahladisms. I mean, in today's day, he would be any HR team's nightmare. So his initiation process, and two people have told me this, to young girls in their 20s, he gave them a dildo as an initiation. He created these terms openly used called certified or resident virgins. I mean, and all these people, and it's in the book, I have not invented it, but they also told me. And yet you are the most loved boss. So honestly...
Hello. The dildo has a story.
I don't want to... I don't know, I may not be invited back next year if I indulge the story, so I'm just going to be politically correct.
You see, before we could actually react, the whole epidemic of AIDS had overtaken us. So I assembled the whole office and peons, everybody. And I said, hello guys, we don't have a choice anymore. We have to address this head on, and we have to not only address it, we have to be the first movers in this whole, activity. Because we have to also counsel other people who want to know enough about it and don't know enough and are too shy to ask. So we opened 2 lines in the office 24/7, which were manned by the women, not by the men. So if any women in any part of society wanted to know more about AIDS and how to pass it on or not to pass it on, what is safe practice, what is not safe practice, then they would be counseled. So we had a guy down from Denmark, from WHO, who actually taught the girls in the office to go to the red light area, how to teach the prostitutes there how to cheek a condom. You know the term? Cheeking a condom. You put a condom inside your mouth and you go down on a guy who does not want to wear a condom, and that is very unsafe practice. And the prostitutes were completely open to disease. So how do you protect yourself? You cheek a condom, you slip it on him, he won't even know whether it's on or not. So we coined a campaign for that, which was for women, only for women, which was if it's not on, it's not on.
So, I mean, moving on, no pun intended. So, honestly, rather than writing a memoir, I mean, I feel, you should have written a management book. I mean, you're this best boss ever. All your people have done extremely well, exercises you've taught them on the phone or not. I mean, was that the genesis of the Prahlad Kakar branding and entrepreneurship school? And what are these ingredients? I mean, you have very successful clan members who are doing extremely well today.
No, that is by the clan.
Yeah, but
The clan is every ex-Genesis person who's all connected to each other through DNA.
and a WhatsApp group, from what I hear.
Yeah. And the best part of it is that whenever we need them to rise and come together for a cause, it's completely spontaneous. You have no idea of the kind of gratitude that I have for the clan to be who they are. Because I remember Vanraj Bhatia. You remember Vanraj Bhatia? Okay. Vanraj was 90 years old and his health insurance had lapsed. And if he didn't pay 50,000 rupees in 2 days to the insurance people, his health cover would be taken off and he could never afford to ever be treated in hospital. He was ailing. And so Mithali and me wrote a letter to the clan saying Vanraj has been a very instrumental part of our beginning years and he was very much a part of the Genesis story. And today he needs help. Can we give it to him? We collected the 50,000 rupees in 2 hours.
Wow.
And Vanraj was in tears. He looked at this list of people who had donated and said, I don't know them. Why would they give me money? I said, Vanraj, because you were a part of the journey, their journey as well.
Wonderful. I mean, I remember interacting with him in his formative years about an opera he had written for Opera House. But anyway, I'm going to come to one of the last questions because we do want to open it up to our Bangalore audience who's probably thinking, ye dil mange more, and asking you more questions. But just before we wrap up, future gazing, advertising is not what it used to be. There's technology involved, there's AI, production is a different thing. Do some future gazing. What do you think for these young people, and especially from Bangalore, who now don't come to Bombay to,
No,
get
don't look
agencies?
At Bombay. Look at yourselves. Advertising is now become relatively successful in Bangalore, in Delhi, in even Calcutta, in Bombay, and so forth, so on. But you must remember, everything changes and nothing changes. So when you go back to that idiom, everything changes but nothing changes, remember, content is always king. Technology is only a medium to carry that content. And technology helps you reach far bigger number of people than we could ever reach. But the fact is that if you get overwhelmed by technology and the brilliance of AI completely pygmyizes your creative content, you're dead in the water. You're as good as anything else. You're mediocre. So the motto that Shyam Benegal gave us as trainees or slaves, as we used to call us, was 2 plus 2 is not 4. 4 is mediocre. 2 plus 2, if it's not 22, is not worth its effort. So that idiom holds still true today. If you cannot add value in terms of the content, in terms of the storytelling, and just get overpowered by the technology, then you have lost the battle straight away. You'll always be overwhelmed.
Wonderful.